Yeah, same. Perfect.
Sweet. We're
Have
good
you
then.
been?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. Same thing.
Is it?
Just big wheel keeps on. Yeah. Done another today. So been taking over. Just it's very much like it's like a buzz. You don't see one for weeks, and then they all come at once, and then you've just got to sort of juggle that around.
Have you
Have
had
you
the
been
time?
busy? You are.
Then have you had the time to do it?
Yeah. It's just sort of making time, innit? Got to prioritise it.
Yeah.
It's I think you get a lot of motivation speaking to people who are, super passionate about what they do. It gives you an insight into how it works and what's expected to even be on the precipice of success. Like, you can do all this, you can be very motivated, very consistent, but it doesn't necessarily grant you where you want to get.
Go on, what do you mean?
So, like, I just think that sometimes, you could continue to do what you do, but it doesn't necessarily mean that, this will be the next Modern Wisdom or the next JRE or anything like that. It just could just be something that, I have a passion for and something I enjoy. But it never really goes any further than that. I mean, it'd be class if it did. But I think that's where you find it. A lot of people, it comes down to passion. And I think that's what keeps them in the game.
Well, I always say it to people like, so, excuse me. So, when you say, like, do you say talk about health and fitness, talk about anything, like, you talk about kids, I know it sounds weird, but talk about kids today, do you know what I mean? Like, they have no work ethic. When I say they
Mm.
have no work ethic, they're all lazy bastards that just look at, they are, aren't they? Let's be honest.
Oh, yeah.
The majority,
There's a
because
reoccurring theme of TikTok brain through everyone.
well, that's what I mean. So TikTok, so you look at stuff like that, and then you look at like influencers. Like my missus is downstairs watching some shite with one of them right now. But if you look at them, it's kind of like okay, the really successful influencers, like the kids look at it and go, I want to stand and talk in front of a camera all day and stuff like that. It's okay, it's cool. You might want to do that, but how passionate are you about it? You look at that. They look at that as easy money and an easy life, which you talk to any influencer. I mean, they'll say if they do their own editing, it will take ages. Do you know what I mean? Like, so they've got editors, and it's like they're passionate. And if you scroll back, like, and it's sad that I know these people, but and it's only through her. It's only through her. I'll tell you now.
Yeah, you'll tell me anything.
Yeah, secretly I'm watching them. There's one that fucking Anastasia Kingsnorth or whatever her name is. Saffron Barker, like all these fucking influencers. But if you scroll back, like Anastasia was doing it when she was a kid. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, so she was passionate about vlogging, and she was passionate about doing that. So it's kind of like, well, that's always been her passion. It's kind of like she's passionate about it, so that's why she's successful at it. She's never. It's just a case of she's shown up day after day after day.
Yeah, 100%. Gary Vee says something similar. He's like, you'll get 1,000 no's, but it only takes one yes.
Yeah, and that's
And
it.
yeah, and imagine the same goes with sort of the bodybuilding, the training like that. You just got to keep
Yeah.
turning up.
Well, obviously, I put a load of shit on my stories, like most days, don't I? That people seem to like, and it's just being real, and it's just talking real, and it's just like you don't have to. When I say you don't have to be the best at something, do you know what I mean? You just have to consistently show up, and it, like you say, it's kind of like I put something on the other day. It was kind of like failure. Do you know what I mean? And like if you take failure, do you know what I mean? And like and don't let failure define you. It's kind of like I think I can't remember if I've said it previously, but like I wish that I would have had probably a little bit more direction when I was younger. Do you know what I mean? Like in how to deal with like rejection. Do you know what I mean? As such, and saying no's because literally you'll fail more times. I put it on my story the other day. I said you'll fail more times than you win at something, and you'll have to go through rejection a lot. Do you know what I mean? To get to where you want to be. So it's like I say, he says the same. So it's like you'll have to go through more no's, and all that it takes is just persistence. And it's like, all right, if you're passionate about something, you learn from the no's, you learn from the failure. It's like, okay, what can I do better? Like you say, you take it from a bodybuilding perspective. It's a judge. It's just what's the word? It is I say judgmental. It's an individual sport. What's the word? Bloody hell. Opinionated sport. Do you know what I mean? And it's based
It's
off
like
opinion.
subjective.
Subjective. Thank you. Subjective sport, and it's opinionated. So it's kind of like okay, you're based off someone's opinion, but it's like you look at yourself, you look at you look at you just analyse yourself, and like I say, you analyse your failures. Do you know what I mean, or your placings, and be like, right, okay, what can I do better? So it's kind of like, as to say, same yourself. Like, how can I make this better? You do this because you enjoy it, but that enjoyment shows through, and I mean that's why people tune in. It's why the audience gets bigger. That's why you're doing more episodes. Why you're having more people on, and it's like your enjoyment for it comes through. So you like doing this, and it's like people like listening to it. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, and it's then word of mouth and everything else, and it's just like that thing will just grow and grow and grow. It's because you're passionate about it, and if you are passionate about it, it's kind of like, okay, you'll look at this podcast and go, okay, how can I develop that even further? How can I take this further afield? How can I take this to the next level? What can I do better to to make this more widespread, shall we say? And that's and that's like, I'm not a podcaster. Fucking hell, I can just about work a laptop and like a phone. Do you know what I mean? But like, that's where you might look at things and go, okay, like, do I then upgrade into a studio, or do I invite guests in? Do you know what I mean? Like, how can the outreach become better? Do you know what I mean? Like, do I plug it on socials? Do I stick it in ads? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Something I'm interested with is, we just talked about like the bodybuilding, the things like that, and you put stuff on your stories and it's very authentic, and I feel that's why people connect with it. But like, you just give some examples there from like a point of view of a podcast, and like, you can upgrade from doing it remote, then going into the studio. What would you say are the natural steps when it's been with bodybuilding? 'Cause I don't think a lot of people give the credit to just how hard bodybuilding is. I think again they go back to things like TikTok, and they see these condensed versions of like the highlight reels of like the fucking Trend Twins and these different people, and they're like, oh, it's just this easy, when it's just not, is it?
No,
So what are the natural steps, would you say?
in what way? Go on.
So like if you're starting, you're like, right, I'm loving the training, I'm enjoying it. What are like the stages of commitment? What did you see in yourself where it just became like, I'm now fine tuning the process, I'm diving deeper into it?
I can't remember if I told you this previously, but it was I was always interested in it, and it started out with the rugby. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think I said that last time. We're trying to get bigger for rugby, and then and I was waiting for a surgery, ACL, and it was like I'd always been wanting to get bigger. Do you know what I mean? Pushing for size. So it was there like, right, okay, let's go down a like a men's physique type of route. Do you know what I mean? Like, let's just see how it fits. If I enjoy the process, if I enjoy everything, which I did. But men's physique wasn't for me. Do you know what I mean? I don't have a face for men's physique. Men's physique's like a nice, do you know what I mean? Like beach
Pretty
body,
boys,
pretty face.
not ex-rugby league players, especially
Nah,
forwards,
not
not like
bald.
us.
Beaten with the ugly stick as a kid. Looks like your dog just chewed it up and fucking spat it out. Like, that's not the look that they go for. This ain't poster boy Mr. Olympia material. Do you know what I mean? Like, looks like an albino on holiday. Like beach body. Yeah, nah, not happening. But I always wanted to go down the bodybuilding route, so it's just like, do the men's physique, see how that went, and then it was just like, right, okay, then progress it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was always passionate about it, and I knew deep down, I probably fought it for a long time, like, in terms of wanting to go into it, because I always wanted to play football or do rugby league, and I wanted to do everything. Do you know what I mean? I just couldn't. It was only when I just pushed down that route where did I go down that route, and that's. If I had a client, which I do you know what I mean? Like, and I have a client that comes to me and says, yeah, they like bodybuilding or they want to compete, and I've done it with people in the past, I'll tell them, okay, what is it you like about it? And they'll say whatever. Okay, what we can do is we can do a mock prep with no show, with no nothing in mind, do you know what I mean? Just to see if you enjoy the process. You can either do a mock prep, you can do a photo shoot, do you know what I mean? Start off, do you know what I mean, like that. See how you find the process, see how you find the process after, and then if you enjoy it, if you love it, right, okay, cool. You can then look at the competing aspect of things. And then obviously I'd say do regional show. It depends what you want to do. It depends how, I say, mentally strong you are. See, I'll be honest, like, I've never entered a shit fed, like, in terms of just looking at trophy hunting. Do you know what I mean? I've always tried to pick shows that I know. Well, I know that are busy shows. Do you know what I mean? Like, the busy
The
qualifier.
standards high, sort of
Yeah,
thing.
Correct. Because I'd rather know where I stand rather than have this false sense of
Be a flat
achievement.
track bully.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, oh, you beat someone that wasn't in shape, or you turned up against literally someone who's just stepped out a novice, or do you know what I mean? Or, oh, no one was there, but I got a first place on Instagram. I couldn't care. I'd rather stand in a lineup, do you know what I mean, against and feel like I belong, do you know what I mean, and like I've earned my
100%.
place.
Yeah.
And I always say, like, you take more away from that than you do from a first place trophy. But no, I'd always say it starts with probably getting in shape from a holiday. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Getting in holiday shape or getting in a photo shoot shape and then just developing it from there.
What is so like? There's obviously the different phases, and I'm probably not the most well versed in them, but you know the two classic ones are like, you know, your bulk and your cut, and then something I've been seeing a lot more probably through like following you and other people's like health phases and things like that. So obviously I'd like you to explain some of them stuff to us because I've not a clue. But what do people struggle with the most? Is it the bulk or the cut, or is it like when you've been in the game a long time? Is it these health phases and things?
Everyone's individual. And there's no. You speak to 100 people, do you know what I mean? Like, you probably get 50 tell you that it'd be this phase, and it would be 50 tell you it would be that phase. Because, excuse me, I've got clients now that will tell you, do you know what I mean, pushing up, getting a little bit softer, do you know what I mean, losing a little bit of condition, pushing a little bit of food, not getting out of shape, because again, you can see with posts, like in terms of my clients and their off-season shapes and their gaining phases, they're still in good condition. Do you know what I mean? They still look like they train. And they don't become fat messes. So it's like even though like from conditions a little bit softer, do you know what I mean? You'll have some people that struggle with the mental aspect of losing that stage condition or that photo shoot condition coming out of it, do you know what I mean? And then you'll get the other half that will go that really struggle with not getting in shape, do you know what I mean? But it's just like it's a drag for them.
Pushing that cut.
And it's the low energy and stuff like that. So it's person dependent. And fucking hell, I was going to say, even for myself, I don't even think there's one worse than the other. As in,
Yeah.
you probably would have probably asked me at the start. I probably would have said to you, dieting was the harder. Not that I never cheat on my diet. Like, hand on heart, I've never cheated on my diet ever. Never have, never will. But it was just like it was the low energy. You know, it's while I was trying to work, and you know, I do have a big appetite, so it's.
Well,
Like,
you're a big boy, aren't you? So I mean, like I say, when you come from a sporting background as well, I
yeah,
imagine that it is difficult to even comprehend the diet because what you've ingrained, knowing you and just your background and that, and probably most people who get into it from playing things like rugby, all you're taught is to feed yourself to have energy. So as soon as you put yourself in a position where that's the complete opposite, it's like give yourself as little really as you can sustain yourself and flog yourself to a degree where you're not injuring yourself, but you're also pushing yourself for loser. It just seems so counterintuitive, doesn't it?
yeah, and that's where the fun aspect of things. That's where
Yeah,
upstairs you have
yeah.
to be like switched on, and
The
it's
mental resilience.
yes, and it's that again. That's something that comes with time though as well, and I think that comes with maturity. I think it comes with age, and I think it just comes with understanding of the processes. And like I say, in terms of emotional attachment, like to a phase, I don't care because like I've had clients like you say with phases that you're asking about. So like you'll have a gaining phase, which is an off-season phase. You'll have the diet phase, do you know what I mean, or prep phase, which is, do you know what I mean, diet. You'll have a health phase, which is again when you sort of any client that's been running anabolics, do you know what I mean, that they'll either come off completely or drop down to a TRT/cruise dose.
Yeah.
So that's classed as a health phase because again you're making sure that all blood work is in a good position. Do you know what I mean? Like so everything's healthy, so you're dropping everything down. You've got health phases and you've got things like a mini diet or a mini cut where you know you're in an off-season setting, but you're looking at again client might have got a little bit too soft or appetite's died or anything like that. So it's a case of right, okay, let's pull back for as much as needed. Could be a short. Well, I say short burst. Could be something like 4 to 12 weeks,
Yeah.
4 to 16 weeks. Diet, get appetite and digestion back in play. Get insulin sensitivity. Get them leaner so the body's then responsive again. So you've got the mini cut. You've got a diet break, which you can incorporate for like a week when you're in a diet if you're starting the process in plenty of time. So again, you can just drop off of stress and inflammation and fatigue that's been accumulated during the prep. You've got the reverse diet or rebound out the show. You're bringing calories up. Do you know what I mean? Expenditure's possibly coming down. Again, you're looking at dropping inflammation and fatigue off the back end of the prep and just looking at coming out and gaining as much tissue within a short window of opportunity, because once you're lean and once you've got your body in that position to grow, and like I say, at the back end of a diet, back end of a prep, body's super responsive. It's like a sponge. So that's the reverse diet phase. Fucking hell, what else is there? There's loads. Maintenance phase.
You've just said like so much there that, you know, hopefully people who have maybe I think there is a general misconception around bodybuilding and things and that of it's cutting, it's bulking, you know, you can be on anabolics or you're just doing this, it's just you turn up and you train, but it's not this. It's such a fine science, isn't it? And I think you see a lot of people today, like we mentioned it though, like TikTok and different things like that. They just don't give it the juice. They just rush into it. They don't they expect to look like, you know, yourself. Bodybuilders who've been in the game for years after like 6 months of just turning up.
Yeah.
And how frustrating is that to like just, you know, navigate?
Not personally, not really, because it's like I say, there's no attachment there. So it's kind of like for myself, it's like if someone was to say to me, "I want to look like you," okay, cool. Like again, genetically, if you've got the genetics for it, it's wicked. Do you know what I mean? Like you can probably get there a lot quicker than what I can, because I ain't gifted. So it's kind of like that's just years worth of discipline, consistency, and hard work. So it's like, but when someone says that, so it's like, okay, you want to do that, okay, be prepared to buckle up. And I think I've said it before, but when I have clients and clients say they want to compete, and it's like, okay, well, do you want to compete to win your class, or do you want to compete to get on stage? And it's like, if they want to compete to win, they're told straight. It's like, okay, like, do you know what I mean? It's going to take a period of time. So I've got lads that have been with me for a period of time. You know, like they're looking at going next year, for an example. And it's like, that would have been 2 years, 2.5 years, because the people who are driven, who want to win. Do you know what I mean? So again, that's just being real with them. It's just like, this takes time. It's like, you know, how many people do we know from when we were younger? Do you know what I mean? Like from a sporting perspective, I'm going to play professional football. Okay, cool. Good luck. You've either got to be super talented, or you've got to have a work ethic. I don't want to say it's one or the other. If you've got both, then you'll fly to the top. But
yeah, easily.
Yeah,
but most people don't have both, do they?
No, and that's the one thing that I've said it loads, and again, I always use the examples, like in a professional sporting world, you know, like look at the amount of people who upstairs don't mentally have it, but you've got players that don't have the ability, the natural ability that they've been given, but they have the work ethic. You know, like we take a footballing perspective. Excuse me. You know, like let's just reel off some players, and I'm picking on Man United here, but you know, let's just take the likes of Paul Pogba, like Anthony Martial, Jesse Lingard, whatever. Marcus Rashford. Do you know what I mean? Like we can just take Pogba and Martial as two. Like Pogba was, do you know what I mean? Like on paper had all the potential in the world. Like what happened to him upstairs? Neymar, another one. All the potential and skill, all the natural ability given. But what don't they have? A work ethic. Do you know what I mean? And then, but if you take the likes of, let's just take the likes of James Milner, Jordan Henderson, Everton have got one in Ashley Young. Do you know what I mean? Like they're all, especially Milner and Young, they're 38 years of age playing Premier League football. James Milner's winning a fucking league test at every club he goes to, and it's like, well, if you look at the accolades that James Milner's got throughout his career compared to what the accolades of Pogba or Neymar have got, who's technically more gifted? Those two. Who's got more accolades? Him. Why? Because he can do a job for a team, and he knows that he's not the best, but upstairs he's got a work ethic to go, yeah, I'll play right back. Yeah, I'll play centre half. I'll do what I need to do for the team. And it's like, when you've got some form of ability, but you've got work ethic, you'll go far. Yeah. When you've got natural ability and you piss around with it, people just don't want to know. And it's again, combine the two, then you've got the likes of Lionel Messi, Ronaldo, bloody hell, in any sport. Do you know what I mean? So
It's an
it's always
important
up there.
factor to have. So how do you think sort of you have your sporting background, you played in team sports. How important do you think, like you mentioned Milner there, about having this just commitment to just turn up for the team, do his job, do his role? Is that what sort of has to translate into an individual sport, something like bodybuilding, where, you know, the days might be shit, you might not be getting the results you want, but you still just got to turn up?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, but yeah, because if you take any individual sport, even darts, do you know what I mean? Golf.
Yeah.
If you're having a bad game and you spit your toys out the pram or just think, oh, fuck it, do you know what I mean? I'm done. What's going to happen? You're going to get beat. You're not going to go anywhere. Tiger Woods, you take that fucker as an example. Do you know what I mean? It's like he was. Do you know what I mean? He was up there, then he went down, and what happened? It was like, okay, you can either pick yourself back up, do you know what I mean, and go again, which he did. Do you know what I mean? He
Yeah.
won another major. But again, it's the same with bodybuilding. It's like, but it's the same with anything in life. That's just the way I say it, and I say it to everyone. It's like you're gonna have good days, you're gonna have bad days. The discipline and the consistency and the hard work. It's like that's just really what does it. If you never wanted to do something, for an example, do you know what I mean? And again, I always say, if you want something in life, you got to work for it. Do you know what I mean? Like, you've just got to carry on going. It's like if someone has a shit day or someone fails at something, it's like, what are you going to do? You're gonna call it there. Do you know what I mean? Like, you do a job interview and it's like, oh, I didn't get the job. What are you going to do? You're going to spit your toys out the pram. You're going to stop applying for jobs, or you're just going to go, right, okay, we go again.
Yeah. And it's interesting you said that, because one thing I wanted to ask you and sort of talk about was, I think especially in bodybuilding and like the training styles of bodybuilding, there's so much different information out there. And like, I already reckon I know what you're going to say. It probably comes down to the individual, but like, it's how do you help people navigate that? And what would you suggest to, say, someone who's new to bodybuilding? Like, if they come in and they're like, right, I'm going to do the classic bro split. I've done that for 6 to 10 weeks. I'm not seeing anything. A lot of people will give up at that point, but there's so many other avenues, isn't there, to go down? They could do like push pull legs, they could do, you know, upper lower, that sort of thing. What would your advice be to like the newbie who's coming in?
Right. In terms of a split design, that is always going to be person dependent, because you're looking at a person's strengths and weaknesses and going, right, okay, as a bodybuilder, okay, you're strong there. Do you know what I mean? You're developed there. Okay, we can possibly maneuver volume so you can incorporate a little bit more here, there, and everywhere. Do you know what I mean? You're trying to build, which will never happen, but you're trying to build a perfect physique. Symmetrical, strong in all areas, no weaknesses. So the split design will always be based on the person's body, their goals, do you know what I mean, etc., etc. Now, in terms of the person just starting out, what did you say? 10 to 12 weeks, give up?
Yeah.
Because you say you're not going to see anything, it's like putting on muscle takes time. Again, in your early years of bodybuilding, like you'll, again, the newbie gains, do you know what I mean? Like you have the ability to put on tissue at probably a quicker rate than any other time within your career. The one thing that I think lacks with a lot of people, and you see it with a lot of the fucking science nerds, do you know what I mean? Like, I bang on about execution to my clients, like to feel, because you can either go, you can just sling weight from A to B and just, you know, like, just not move load on a target muscle. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I'd say first and foremost, make sure you're contracting and engaging and feeling the exercise that you're trying to do. Because again, this is bodybuilding. Like, so if you were powerlifting or you were a strongman, something like that, Olympic lifting, whatever, you can use when I say a little bit of body English, like, you don't have to think about how you're moving that load from A to B.
You're not isolating something, are you, necessarily?
Correct. Whereas this is bodybuilding, you're trying to sculpt a physique. It's not about how heavy you can lift. It's not about being the strongest in the gym. Do you know what I mean? It's not about stroking an ego. It's about building a physique. So how you build a physique is learn to contract the target muscle, learn to move that weight through range of motion from A to B, contracting and utilizing that muscle. You do that, again, the muscle's going to change. It's going to be challenged because it's under stress. Do you know what I mean? So it's under load. The better the mind-muscle connection, the better the development of the muscle tissue is going to happen over time. Again, genetics come into it, but learn how to move properly and do it with intensity. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can have all the best form in the world, but if you don't train with intensity, your body's not going to change. You have to train. You have to put yourself through a pain barrier. And I don't mean injure yourself, but I mean, like, you have to. When exercise starts to get hard, all right, cool. Do you know what I mean? Make it burn, make it hurt until you can't fucking do any more with that muscle. Yeah. But it's always like, from the start, it's train with intensity, learn how to move weight with using the target muscle. They're the two things that I'd say. In terms of a training split, so again, I wouldn't change a person's training program unless their physique demanded it. So again, if I was programming for someone and you bring up a lagging body part and it comes up pretty quick, okay, cool, we'll change the split. But for the majority of the time, you don't need to change the split for 6 months. Again, it's like I say, you step onto a rugby pitch, you step onto a football field, you're like, oh, I'm not a pro yet. Oh, I've not had an academy approach me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not doing this. What are you going to do? Give up? No, it's if you work hard enough at something, put in the time, put in the effort, give it time to work instead of just thinking it's going to happen overnight, because it's not. And again, the one thing I always say to people is the one thing that you can't buy in this world is a good physique. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can buy pretty much whatever you want in this world, but you can't buy a good physique. That's something that you have to graft for. So don't just jump off and look at changing splits every 4, 6, 8 weeks because you're not seeing results.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, just try following a split for a period of time and a prolonged period of time. Give it months and go, right, okay, assess, analyze, okay, has it improved? Has this improved? Yes or no? And then you might want to try just a little tweak here or there. Do you know what I mean? But the main two, I'd say, is learn how to move properly and learn how to move with intensity as well.
Yeah, you mentioned there about the science lot, and like, I'm always interested because I might be completely wrong here, and a bit of like, is it best to have a bit of both? Is it best to be a bit of a bro scientist? Because you've obviously got, like, you know, we've seen that clip, I don't know if you've seen it, with Jeff Nippard and that. Who was the guy who just thwarted him? Did you see that?
Was it Mike Van Wyck?
Yeah, and he just fucking throat punched him and he like broke his back. And I was like, this is the most bizarre argument I've ever seen in my life. Like, Jeff Nippard's like legit natural, and you're fucking absolute unit yourself. Like, clearly both of what you do has some, you know, has some results. Like, how can you not just be like, oh, you know what, we'll just sit in the middle, you're right. But people get really passionate about it, don't they? Like, you see such arguments about, like, lift heavy or lift scientific.
There's a blend, and it's like, and again, I'll be honest with you, it's a blend. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it is just a blend. Like, some of the science stuff has its say. Do you know what I mean? When I say it's proven, science will always confuse itself, and there'll always be some form of conflicting argument with science. So science is never correct technically, but
it's all theoretical, isn't it?
Yeah, correct. So it's like, because of X biomechanics, or you're moving this through this plane of motion, do you know what I mean? Like, torque and all this shite, do you know what I mean? Yeah, okay, cool. But do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, when I hate to see when people butcher exercises, or people say like, oh, like, I use a cuff lateral raise is better than a dumbbell raise. Why? Because it's under tension the whole time. Okay, but we can look at we can look at history and go, okay, well, that person's built an amazing set of delts using dumbbells. Do you know what I mean? That barbell press hasn't done that person any harm. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it was there before cuffs. Do you know what I mean? I'm using that as an example.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean.
It's a blend of both, in personal opinion. Like, I think you have to have you have to have the bro science side of things. Like, again, you can't experience over everything. Do you know what I mean? And we have experience. Like, if we take all the bodybuilders before us, how did they all train? Do you know what I mean? Again, genetics is going to come into it, but how did they develop their physiques? Okay, on the bare basics. Okay, so you want to still build, in my eyes, the programs, the bread and butter will never go. Do you know what I mean? It never will. And again, everyone will have their little tweaks. Again, it's like football and rugby and every sport, it will move in cycles. And again, like bodybuilding's no different, it will move in cycles. But there's always something that's there from the outset. Do you know
Some
what I mean?
fundamentals in place.
Yeah.
And what would you say that they are?
Well, I say certain movements, like, so a pressing movement. Do you know what I mean? Like for any shoulder or chest development, like either any pressing movement, i.e., like a Smith machine, like dumbbell, etc., like dumbbell lateral raise. Do you know what I mean? Like they're basic. Some form of deadlift movement. So like you still have to incorporate barbell and dumbbell work. It has its place. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's proven. That's the hard stuff that people don't want to do because it challenges you in every plane of motion. So again, if you're trying to do a bent over row, for an example, yes, you can isolate the target muscle, which is what you are trying to do. But the reason why people don't like doing it is because, again, you have to stabilize yourself. So you're challenging core, do you know what I mean? Because you're bent over, so it's like you're bracing, do you know what I mean? Like you're stabilizing through legs and glutes and, do you know what I mean? Things like that. So it's like there's always an argument to go, well, this chest supported row is better, do you know what I mean? Because you can fix the position. And again, both have the place.
Yeah.
But it's like the fundamentals are there, and it's like you still have to incorporate dumbbell and barbell work into the plan. So it's like, even let's say from a leg perspective, like a leg press is always, in my eyes, always got to be in there. Do you know what I mean? Like some form of deadlift movement, whether it's a stiff leg, whether it's an RDL, something like that. I don't do conventional deads, and I don't program them just because, again, for me, it's kind of like what you're looking at targeting, what you're looking at building. Whereas a dead is, it's more of a powerlifting. Do you know what I mean? If you're doing a specific sport, wicked. But for a bodybuilding perspective, you've got a variation, i.e., like a rack pull, a stiff leg dead, an RDL, where you can actually challenge a target muscle in a plane of motion. But I'd always say, like, you have to have the fundamentals, but you have to manipulate it. Like, there's some stuff there with science that comes into play.
I was watching something the other week, and it was I can't remember who it was. It was saying that, you know, when you first started out, if you tried a machine and you thought, oh, this is like, it's uncomfortable for me, it doesn't work, a lot of people just write that off. And people were saying, like, once you get, you know, a bit more, what's the word, a bit more experience, a bit more knowledge, maybe go back to it and try it again. How often do you see people that come to you, you know, when you're a coach, you know, and they're like, I can't do that machine. And do you ever see it and you're like, oh, why you can't? Do you
Yeah,
ever get that? Because
yeah,
I can't believe how common it is. Like, I'm probably guilty of it in some aspects myself, but like, I think from what you've just explained, it's reassuring to hear that it just seems like a lot of trial and error.
yeah.
But
Of course.
because one thing didn't work once, it doesn't mean that you have to completely eliminate it unless it obviously causes you injury or something like that.
That's exactly right. So it's like, if it causes injury and you have a persistent issue with it and it stops you progressing, and it's you getting the risk versus reward isn't there, pointless. Like, so again, like you'll get kids on Instagram, not even kids, you get fucking grown adults who are just trying to sell a business. Do you know what I mean? It
Yeah,
was bang on socials. Oh, this is the number one exercise to do this. Is it? Or is that just you trying to sell some bullshit for someone to fall for? Do you know what I mean? Because that's 9 times out of 10. Mechanically, and I hate talking sciencey, but if biomechanically that movement doesn't fit well with you, you keep getting injured, you keep breaking down, you can't progress that lift, and then it's hindering the rest of your training. Why is it in there? Do you know what I mean? Like, because some nerd says that, like, I don't know, like, I use a squat pattern just for an example. Barbell squats, like, the best thing for building quads. It's not, but, you know, like, there's you that blows out your lower back every fucking other week.
yeah,
That then prevents the rest of your training. Okay, we can look at the squat and see, okay, where does it break down? What is it that you're doing for it to, okay, so you can analyze that side of things. You can then try and implement it. But again, if you're still breaking down, you're still having those movements that just don't fit well with your body, it's just like bin them off. There's always an alternative, and it's person dependent. So, but people do come and people go, I can't do that. Okay, let's have a look. Let's have a look at why you can't do it. 9 times out of 10, once you analyse, I'm bad. When I say I'm bad for it, like the majority of my time is literally just spent on my phone, either with check-ins or looking at people's form feedback. And if any of them watch this, like, or listen to it, it's constant. Do you know what I mean? It's constant critique, but in a good way. It's constructive feedback, and it's like they all appreciate it because it's making them better. I'm lucky with the ones that train in the gym where I'm at, because if I see something, I'll always go over like mid-set and go, like, I'll let them finish and go, right, okay, do this next time. I've done it with one of my clients today who I've just put up on socials about it, like a chest support. It was in there, I've done it with a few exercises, but it was a chest supported row. And it was just like he's gluing his chest to the pad. It's just okay, like, so I was saying it to someone else, it's like a rowing movement, do you know what I mean? Because a nerd says glue your chest to a pad, do you know what I mean, and keep it fixed, okay, but you can't retract your scapula, do you know what I mean? So let's think of it like this, right? From a bodybuilding terms, it's not the best sort of explanation, but what do rowers do? How do they row? Do you know what I mean? Like, this full extension, do you know what I mean? And then they drive back. Can you imagine a rower sat in a boat, drives forward, tries to keep his chest forward and comes there? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They ain't winning fucking anything, are
It'd be
they?
a slow race.
Correct, exactly. So it's like, so it's kind of like, well, and that's what I was trying to explain to him. Is like, to really like hit the upper back, for an example, you don't need to come back like a row. Do you know what I mean? Like a row. You don't need to over exaggerate it, but you need a little bit of body English there. Like extend, and do you know what I mean? Like, so again, to retract the scapula, to get it fully short, to get that upper back, again, retract that scapula, you need to bring your chest off the pad. Showing him, it's funnily enough, because he was filming his sets for me in the gym, and then he sent me a picture, and that's what I mean. That's what I put up on socials, and it was
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, you can see a big difference there. I was like, yeah, bingo. Because look at your elbow path. Your elbow path can get back, so you can fully retract. So it's like, but yeah, I do it with all mine. I always get them to send the form videos across, and it's like, I'll analyse, and if they're struggling with something, okay, send it across. Let's see where you're breaking down.
How important do you think it is to have a coach? I think there's so much that, I mean, it's brilliant. You look at the resource and the plethora of information. I think if you look in the right places, there is a lot of good information on certain things, especially like, I like people like Jeff Nippard, like Mike used to tell them sort of things. I like watching them. I think, for me, I've learned some good things from them. But I think there's another level, isn't there, to having someone on a one-to-one basis that has the lived experience. How important is it in bodybuilding, do you think?
Very much so, because again, you're trying to build a physique. So again, like, you can take all the education that you want, do you know what I mean, off of the internet, and don't get me wrong, you can self-coach to a degree, but I think it's always good to learn from people. And again, like, I've self-coached once in my career. That was 2020 to 2022-ish. I had coaches before that, self-coach, went back to a coach, and it's just because, again, I like being accountable to people. I don't like to think about my own stuff whilst dealing with other people's. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'd rather just let other people take the reins. And again, you'll always learn from people, and it doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter if it's not how to do something, or it's not, if it's a case of whether you think. I know, like, you could learn how not to coach. Do you know what I mean? Through people, which has happened with myself. I've learned, okay, like, I've thought my thought process would be different, and that's been proven right. Whereas you take some coaches and, like, you learn how to do stuff, and it's like, oh, I like that. So again, in terms of, I'll just use myself as an example. Like, I've worked with a fair few, and it's like, you take little bits out of everyone. Do you know what I mean? And it's you learn from everyone, and it's skills and stuff that stick there. And I think it's very important for your own knowledge, your own development, more so yourself as a bodybuilder, because you'll get a few that can do really well. Do you know what I mean? Self-coaching. You can, but like, I think from an athlete, I think it's always good to be coached, because it's that accountability. It's having that someone there to take the stress off you. That it's that reassurance. Do you know what I mean? If they need reassurance, and I just think every pro bodybuilder, near enough every pro bodybuilder has a coach. Do you know what I mean? Like, can they do it themselves? Yeah, but they have a coach. What for? Because there's someone out there that might show you something that might propel you even further. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's
Efficiency as well, and things like you mentioned there about taking the stress off.
Yeah. And in terms of information that's out there, I'm not going to say I'm not bad mouthing anyone, but a lot of people are driven like to Israel. Do you know what I mean? But if we look at it, the guy's a clever guy. I'm not saying he's not, by the way. He obviously, it really is. But if we look at it and break it down, what's he done? He's got his arm.
in his competing, as Greg Doucette will happily say, he's not done very much.
No, exactly. He's not, and like he's not the best competitor. And if we look at why, it's kind of like, he'll sit there and he'll like, it's okay to eat like like protein bars and fucking protein snacks and all this stuff, and it's like, okay, but that's also part of the reason why he turned up looking like a soggy piece of shit. Do you know what I mean? Like, because there's ways that I could go into if it fits your macros versus whole foods all day. Do you know what I mean? But I won't even bother. But the thing with Israel is like, clever guy, got doctor in his name. He's got, but from a business perspective, it's like, for me, I probably wouldn't. I don't want to say I wouldn't take anything from him. I would, but I wouldn't use that as gospel.
Yeah.
Because if we look at it, what is it? It's a successful business.
Yeah,
and that's what he's done. He's tried to. Again, I'm not saying he's just because he's a doctor, he's used the word doctor in his name, etc. Like I say, he's a very intelligent guy, obviously, but it's a niche. It's finding he's found something and just tweaked it. Do you know what I mean? Found a way to sell a product. Do you know what I mean? Like,
it's a very easy place for it to get sucked into an echo chamber. I think specifically bodybuilding, it's very easy for it to just get into, rabbit holes of specific people. And something that I found is that it is always good sometimes to listen to maybe the opposite of, or the counter of someone in particular. That's why I like, they don't have the beef anymore, apparently, but Greg Doucette and Mike Israel's beef was some of the, just purely for comic, like, content. It was brilliant just to, it was more one way than the other, but just to absolutely berate each other. But they had good points about either one and things like that. And, it is interesting for get your opinion of it, because you have so much lived experience. And I think it's easy to just see these people and put them on pedestals and to just assume because they've got doctor in the name and they've got 2 million subscribers that everything they're saying must be fact. Well, you know what I mean?
It happens here. Do you know what I mean? It happens within the industry, and it happens here within the UK. The UK had it for a period of time where certain people had said something and people believed it was gospel. Do you know what I mean? Because they had an app or because they put themselves out there and say what's what. Do you know what I mean? And that's driven a generation in terms of how people train or how people do things. Do you know what I mean? Because certain people have said certain things and people have taken it as gospel. And it's like, I mean, I've said it on my stories, like, where people use 2 working sets per exercise. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's gospel. Do you know what I mean? Like, let's go back in the day when it was 3 working sets. Do you know what I mean? So who decided it was 3 working sets down to 2? Do you know what I mean? Because such and such says something. Because certain people have platforms and certain people have built good reputations on stuff that they've achieved and how they look, which is fantastic. Do you know what I mean? Like, again, I'm not taking anything away from the credit of the hard work of what's drawn attention to them. People in this industry are like sheep. And like, don't get me wrong, like, look, I've trialed stuff before, but it's like, I'd always say personally, don't look at the people who are trying to sell a business and something that's different, because I'm going to tell you now, you're wasting your time. Go and look at the people who have been there and done it prior. Do you know what I mean? And like, who have shown up, coaches who consistently get results, and pro bodybuilders who are on the pro bodybuilding stage. Okay, what are they doing? And I can guarantee you, like 9 times out of 10, the majority of pro bodybuilders and the UK bodybuilders like are doing something completely different, and it's because like I say, we're sheep, and because such and such says something in the UK, that's it, it's gospel. You go and look at, like, say, pro bodybuilders. Not many bodybuilders in the UK utilise training with volume anymore. Intensifying techniques within the sessions. Do you know what I mean? Whether it be drop sets, cluster sets, rest pause sets. Do you know what I mean? Etc. Etc. Because it's been bad mouthed or it's been slated or it's been used as junk volume or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, but what happens if your physique responds to that? Do you know what I mean? So it's like, well, because such and such says. Like, say, go and look at anyone on a pro stage and look how they train. And it's like, okay, but they'll utilise volume. They'll utilise. So it's like, well, they're doing it. Again, they're the genetic elite. But my point is, like, you've got people on that pro stage that will train with maybe 1 to 2 working sets per exercise because that's all that they need. and then you'll have people who utilise a little bit more volume. It's like it's a widespread thing. It's like it's not a one size fits all.
A good example of that is Jay Cutler and Ronnie Coleman in the way they train so different, wasn't it? Like I think Jay was quite light, wasn't he? A lot of reps, then Ronnie Coleman was just freakishly heavy. And I mean, you've seen the sort of outcome as to where what is now, but one it was the all-time great. I mean, he's absolutely mangled now, but it got him to where he is, and that was that you could say that. Well, that was the difference. Do you know what I mean?
But then again, you go through the history of bodybuilding, so we can utilise like people like Dorian Yates.
Yeah, he was a bit like Cutler, wasn't he? Was he a bit similar?
I'd say Dorian Yates was very low volume, so it's like how many sets would Dorian Yates take to true failure? Do you know what I mean? Like 1 to 2 working sets. But the guy was a freak, and Dorian Yates trained that intense, and he had an ability to get the job done in 1 to 2 working sets to failure. Do you know what I mean? Like where his body's smashed, and it's like he can't recover from anymore. So it's like, okay, that's Dorian Yates. But again, you can take the just say Jay Cutler, Ronnie Coleman were past that era, but you used to see splits of Ronnie training everything twice a week. Do you know what I mean? With high volume. It's like we've got Hunter Labrada today. Like Hunter Labrada again is a 1 to 2 working set per type of person. But then you've got people who are again placing higher than Hunter. Like you look at Samson, you look at Haddy, you look at Derek, you look at all those, and you look at how they train. Excuse me. They'll do multiple working sets with higher volume with intensifying techniques. So it's like, okay, what's worked for Hunter? What they do might not work for Hunter. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's trying to find what works for the individual.
I think that you've summed it up perfectly. I think it always comes back to the individuality of it, doesn't it? And I think from what you were saying there about people moving along a bit like sheep, is that it very much seems like people, and this is a natural thing that you see in life a lot, is they're looking for that golden nugget to cut out the hard work that you was talking about right at the beginning. So they try these different things, and that probably negates them getting to the outcome by just sticking to the one thing.
And that's honestly, if I could say that to anyone, that would be it. It's like there is no secret. Do you know what I mean? Like you'll get sold a dream. Do you know what I mean? Of like, and you'll think to yourself, because again, we've all been guilty of it. Oh, that's the missing piece. That I've not been doing that, and that's it. And it's it's show up and do the basics.
Yeah, I love that, and I think that's probably a good place to end it, because I think we've just epitomised it in the 50-minute chinwag that we've just had. But before we go, what's coming up for you? What are you up to soon? What's comps looking like? Things like that. What's your plan?
Nothing this year. I just need more size.
Yeah.
So coming off the back of the British last year,
because we saw you. Last time we spoke was just before you did the British.
It was.
Yeah, so you did quite well, didn't you?
Fourth.
Was it fourth? And then you had another show where you come second. Was it in September?
They were the regional qualifiers.
Were the regional? Yeah. Because we didn't see. I didn't. We spoke as you just before you was getting into that. Yes, and I knew you were. You was. I knew you was just. There was one where it was just out of the top three. I knew one you placed in the top three.
So it was the two regionals were second place. The British was fourth place.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those.
Which is mad. I mean, if you think about like the pool in which you mentioned it before, didn't you? About you've put yourself in the biggest dog eat dog category, and you've come out fourth. And how motivating is that to be like fucking just a bit more, and then
being completely honest, like in terms of the thing is like with the British is you'll get good people there, obviously. Do you know what I mean? But like you're still missing like supers and stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like some of the best supers in the country like might have competed earlier in the year, so it's not as if I'm like I look at it and go, I'm fourth best super. Do you know what I mean? Like genuinely being honest, like I looked at those shows going, I would have been happier not to come last. That was and people might say, oh, it's a poor mentality to have, but it's being realistic, like in terms of again looking at the physique, looking at people who I'm up against and their potential. Do you know what I mean? Like the people that are beat, some of them, like especially in the supers, like there was two of them that are probably on paper better bodybuilders, like genetically. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just that they were too soft.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's like again they let themselves down. Whereas
And it comes back to that subjectiveness again, doesn't it? A lot, because I know we've talked in the past, and there's been things where certain judges prefer certain things, don't they?
Yeah. But again, it's like being real with myself. It's like I knew going into those British finals, like I wasn't winning anything. So it's like, okay, let's just go see how fair. Let's just take the feedback, go and work on it. And it's like again, what their feedback was. Again, this is where being like real and like being honest and looking at yourself and not being deluded. Do you know what I mean? Like comes into play. Like I know on my own physique like where I lag. Do you know what I mean? And it's like in terms of feedback, it was like, okay, we know that. So it's a case of now just take this year out, put on more tissue, and then go again potentially. Touch wood. As long as there's enough been added, like we'll go again next year. So nothing this year. It's just literally just all clients for this year.
Exciting, mate. Exciting to see what the project will look like in a year's time. But yeah, let people know where they can find you, and I'll obviously put it all in the description below. But before we round up, let them know where they can find you.
Instagram, Ewan Rodger. That's it.
Perfect.
That's the only thing. I never use Facebook. I never use X or Twitter.
Just
Instagram.
you know where you are, and then that's it.
Yeah, I'm old, mate. Like, do you know what I mean?
Keeping it simple.
Yeah, Bebo, MySpace.
Oh, Bebo Hotel. Was it Bebo Hotel? With
No,
Club
it's just Bebo,
Penguin.
wasn't it?
Is it? There's some
What are you
absolutely
thinking of?
mad ones. I don't know if I can think of. There was that one with the hotel, wasn't there? And then there was like Club Penguin. We have gone off to a fucking mad tangent here.
Like, all that I remember was Bebo and MySpace. That was it.
Yeah. There was like, as I said, it was like MSN. And then it was
MSN,
like,
that was wicked.
yeah, and then there was like the Feral Place MSN. And then it was like the thingy hotel and all the like, animated ones where you build shit and stuff like that.
I think you're thinking of The Sims or something like
Probably. I've had a lot of head knocks over the years playing rugby.
that.
But yeah.